A very warm welcome to Marketing and Data Analytics. My name's Hannah Price and I am the module leader for this module. And I'd love to introduce you in today's lecture to a number of different things, which include the module itself, the assessments. I'm going to show you the schedule that we'll be following and introduce you to the team. And then we're going to find out a few definitions of marketing, and we're also going to have a look at digital marketing. And then I'm going to introduce you to some key marketing frameworks which should help you with your first assignment. So first of all, let's have a look at what we'll be doing in this module. So it's a combination between marketing and data, and it brings them together. So we look at the key marketing concepts and we understand how marketing is communicated. Then underpinning all of this is data which is used to inform decisions and create knowledge that helps with marketing. So you're going to look in some detail at data types and how we analyse those and how we make sure we've got the right data to make decisions. Then you're going to critically evaluate different types of data, how it's used for different activities. And actually the first assignment really looks at this in some detail in terms of data and how it's used within an organisation. And this enables you to have an understanding how marketing can be used to support information systems. And this means that we can use this data to give us a competitive advantage and to evolve our marketing strategy. So let's think about or have a look at our first assignment, and the assignment briefs are available to you on Moodle. The first assignment is a group presentation. So you'll need to be in groups of 4, and there are group activities every week for you to undertake. Now you get to pick your own groups, which is fantastic, but if you haven't picked them by the end of the second week and emailed them to me over to me by the end of play, so 5 p.m. on Thursday the 11th of February. So I need you to email me a list of your 4 group members by then. If you don't, on Friday the 12th of February, what I'll do is I'll put you into groups and I'll email you as a group to let you know. So you'll have to manage working together, which is always a challenge, and you will be awarded a group mark. So we suggest that you use a group diary to log the activities you've done and to have an audit trail of what everyone's committed to do. So the group presentation is about critically evaluating the key benefits of data analytics in a selected business. So obviously one of the first things you need to do is find out and decide amongst you what this selected business is. So it's a 15-minute video presentation where you use a poster presentation as your visual. And there are instructions, as I say, there are detailed instructions on Moodle. So you've got 15 minutes for your group poster presentation, and all 4 of you need to present. So you need to be present and present. However, you'll be doing it on digital, you'll be doing it on video and uploading it onto Moodle for us. So you've got to decide, are you physically going to get together to do it, or are you going to do it separately and compile it together in order to submit it? Now, in addition to this presentation, there are 5 minutes extra and there are 3 preset questions. So already on the assignment brief, you get to see the questionnaires that you need to complete. So the second assignment is an individual marketing report, and in this one we really probe data about an organisation even deeper. So it might be that you pick the same organisation that you're going to use in the first assignment in the second. So if you do that, you need to be careful that in the first assignment you pick an organisation from the FTSE 250. So you've got to analyse, compare and contrast company data and your organisation and their performance, looking at their risks, look at how they're competing in the competitive environment. So you're going to be using some databases to do this, and it's all going to be underpinned by marketing theories and strategies to contextualise and to really add meaning to the findings that you're creating for this report. So let's have a look at how we're going to do all this and the schedule that we're going to follow. So we've got the first week, this week, we've got your introduction to the module and also to strategic marketing. Then next week, we're going to look still at marketing, the focus. We're looking at the context and the environmental analysis and looking at some tools to look at that. And then we're going to look at what our ideal customer is, and we're going to consider how we segment, in other words, group customers together, and then we decide which ones to go for by targeting them, and then start looking at how do we position our organisation, or how does an organisation position itself to appeal to that target market. So by the end of this week, or by the Thursday on this week at 5 p.m, this is when I need you to email me your confirmed groups if you know who you want to work with. Then on to week 3, we're starting to look at data then, and my colleague, either Cassie or Sama, or even both, will be working with you to consider what the data-driven organisation is all about. That's going to work really well for your first assignment. The week after, they look at data analytics and data types. And then in the seminars that week, so on week 4, we're going to start looking at the assessment 1 and what we need to do for it in the workshop. So you'll already have all the details for assessment 1 already. You'll start your group work this week, but actually we start to really bring it together when you've really started to get into it in week 4. Then on the 1st of March, we've got the reading week, so we've got no delivery that week. And then the week after, week 6, we're back into marketing and we're considering our brand position and their value proposition of the organisation. And then in the workshops or the seminars that week, we're actually looking at the assessment 2 guidance. So you get a really clear picture on both assessments as to what you should be doing. Week 7, we're considering the marketing mix, and on that one we won't be repeating the assessment 2 guidance workshop. We should be looking at the marketing mix in more depth and something called the 4 C's, which is about a customer-centred or relationship-centred marketing mix. Week 8, you start to look at how to use specialist databases, which will be exceptionally helpful for both assignments. And then we bring the learning together in week 9, where we consider the data and how you use it to make decisions and inform strategies. So you've got 3 weeks off for Easter. When we in that, you'll be submitting your group poster presentation and video and your group diary. Then you've got a couple of extra weeks. The final 2 sort of in theory taught weeks are drop-in sessions to support you with your assignments. And then you've got your final assignment that's due on the 10th of May. So in terms of how we're going to make this happen, we've got weekly lectures that are going to be pre-recorded like this one, and they'll be released at 8 o'clock on the Monday of the week that you'll be learning. Then you've got live tutorials. Now they're only an hour long and we actively encourage you to attend these, and your presence will be recorded. So this is particularly important if you've got visa restrictions that mean you need to demonstrate that you're participating and engaging with us. There'll also be some self-directed team exercises for assessment 1, and these all flow and work with the contents for each week. So you've got a structure of the sorts of things as a team you need to be looking at, but please do look at other things as well. It's just a starting point. Each week you'll have some more reading, there may be some exercises, there may be some videos to watch, and we're looking to try and have some guest speakers who will give an industry focus and support what we're delivering. So look out for those because they'll be added in at the relevant points. So every week we have a live session as well, and depending on which group you're in, you must attend the correct group seminar. And they're all conducted on Teams, they're 1 hour long and they're mandatory. So you'll see there'll be a schedule available and you just need to click on there and make sure that you attend for the hour. And they'll be more interactive. They are in fairly big groups, but the idea is that you get the opportunity to have some interaction and really put the learning content from the lecture into a practical environment. So in terms of who we've got delivering this course, so my name's Hannah Price, I'm the lady in blue there, and I'm the module leader, so it's ultimately my responsibility, overall responsibility for the entire course. Then I have 2 colleagues supporting me. We have Cassie and Sama, and they'll be both more focused on the data side of it, and Sama will really be supporting you at the end of it in terms of the one-to-one support. In addition, of course, there are more than just us supporting you through this program. You've got your personal tutors, and I would actively encourage you to make contact with them and ensure that you're getting all the support that you need there, whether it be academic or whether it actually be more pastoral and about your needs and anything that's concerning you about your studies. A number of my colleagues are personal tutors and they are really, really eager and to help you, so please reach out to them. We've also got David Conorado III, and he's an exceptional individual because he's really keen to give you a work sort of experience of the workplace through this program, and I've been working with him on the guest speakers. So he's worth contacting because he runs a number of industry events. At the moment, they've been primarily online, but prior to the pandemic, he's run a lot of physical events in the premises of different organisations that are rather exciting. So it's worth making contact with him. We've also got Tom Critchlow, who will help you in terms of being focused on academic support. And then somebody who's going to be part of the delivery team, if you like, for this course, particularly focusing on the databases and the use of the specialist databases, is Jane Monks. Now, she's actually based in York, but she does provide tutorials and support as well. So please look out for her sessions later on in this programme. So let's have a look at what marketing actually is. So we've got common definitions of marketing have a certain number of themes through them. So if we just have a look through these slides here, we've got this idea that marketing is about value, because you'll see on the first two definitions, we've got this idea of creating value. And the value creation has to be between a number of parties. So in the first definition, it's through the customer and the marketeer. In the second one, it's about value with others. So this idea of an exchange as well in the second one. So we've got Philip Kotler, who comes up with a second definition. Now, you'll see in your notes on Moodle for this week that I actually encourage you to watch an hour-long video from Philip Kotler, which is just absolutely phenomenal, and it really sums up what marketing is all about. So please do watch that, because you'll understand more about where he's coming from in terms of this idea of marketing being a socialisation. So actually it's a real exchange, and we're going to look at that in more detail in this lecture. So back to the first one, we need to identify, so we need to work out what people want, then we need to make it and create it, then we need to make sure on an ongoing basis that people are happy with the value that they're getting. And the final one is the CMI definition, CIM, sorry. And CIM is it's the organisation that sort of, in the UK, it's responsible for like the industry body, the professional body for marketing. And they again talk about this process of identifying, but they don't just identify, they anticipate. So in other words, they sort of guess, they forecast, which is where you use your data. And in order to be able to do this, we can see what's coming and we can make sure that we create what the customer needs. And in order to make sure our organisation is sustainable, we need to do this profitably. So even charities need to cover their costs when they're looking at doing their marketing activities and running their organisation, because they need to ensure that they're able to continue running. So that's why the profitably, strange how that sounds because it sounds very commercial, equally works for non-for-profits. Okay, so let's continue on this theme and look a bit more about what marketing is. So marketing's all about making sure that organisations are able to actually exceed what people want, and that's a marketing orientation. So they really, really understand their customers. And there's a big trend in marketing which is about co-creation. So it's about being so closely involved with our customers that we're able to really sort of have a dialogue with them and make sure that we're creating exactly what they're after. And ideally, if we do our marketing well, we do it better than the competition. And you're going to be looking in this module about how do we find out what the competition's doing and how do we measure this. Often, and particularly when the economy is bad, marketing is seen as a nice to have. It's something that we do when we've got their money. It shouldn't be. In a marketing-centered organisation, it's at the core of everything. The customer sits firmly there, and all parts of the organisation are connected. And this is where it should be weaved through everything, the way we make things, the way we deliver them, and the way that we sort of get them from wherever we're creating them out to the customer, and how we do that in a very customer-centered way. Now, digital marketing is merely a variation on this using technology. So it uses the internet, it uses different technologies alongside and in conjunction with traditional communications to achieve the objectives we set for our marketing department. And of course, this has been enabled by the fact that we've got all sorts of different devices now that we can use. Touchscreen means that we can interact so easily with marketing that we can create messages that are tailored for us very, very easily. And this is we will continue to see this through the devices, even things like the fridges and the Internet of Things, and how we'll be able to see if we need to replenish our commonly used goods. So there'll be sort of additional intelligence that's built in and understands our behaviours and what we might be interested in, and markets to us accordingly. Now, obviously, search engines are a key part of finding information on the web, and Google being the biggest one of those. Something you might want to consider, depending on where your organisation operates, is which search engines would be used in those countries and which are the most frequently used. Now, never mind the final point about with a naturally ageing population, there are more people who are going to be only a proportion of those won't be using the internet or using technology. But what we may have found that there's been an even further shift with the pandemic, that in order to remain connected with friends and family, to order to get services that they need, that even those people who may have been technophobes before the pandemic, in order to enable and to live the most fulfilling lives that they can, have had to engage with digital. So digital covers a number of different things, and it's an element in this course, but it's not it's strategic marketing is underpins it using data, and digital is one aspect of that marketing, those marketing techniques we can use. So there are all sorts of things that it covers, including apps, social media, websites, and because of this, there are lots of different marketing techniques that can be used. One of the key benefits that's seen to be for online communications is the measurability, and that's always something that's seen as quite popular for organisations, that they like that. However, there is a risk. Just because you measure it and some things are less measurable, it doesn't necessarily mean it's more effective. It's just easier to quantify. So one of the key concepts in marketing is of this idea of exchange, and by this we mean that in order for people to satisfy their needs and to engage with whatever you're doing, there's a trade-off. So if we look at the first example with a non-for-profit, so the fire service. So the fire service in the UK is funded through taxes. And actually, people need to be happy because in essence, we all pay for it. So they need to feel safe. They need to feel that if there's an emergency, the fire service will be there. And the public are happy then to give their taxes, but also not only that, they cooperate. So if they see a fire engine coming, they'll pull over to the side of the road. They will do whatever they can. They will inform the fire service if they see something. So there's this sort of idea of what they provide, but then what the public provide in return. So obviously a key idea with a marketing exchange is understanding who the two parties are involved. So it may be, in the second example, we've got a business to consumer market. So it's very, very simplistic, this example. So the retailer sells whatever they're selling, so it could be gift cards, but they do so with a smile, and it's very nice customer service, and it's a beautiful retail environment which I go in, I browse, I enjoy the process. And in exchange, I can find quirky, so unusual gift cards, and I'm prepared to pay a little bit more because they're not standard cards. They're things that are a little bit different. Okay, so I get that from the retailer, and in exchange, I pay a little bit more than I would do normally for these gift cards. And also because I really like the shop, I travel a little bit further and I pay a bit more for parking, and it takes me a bit longer to get there, so I go out of my way a little bit. So what I'd like you to think when you're thinking about the true exchange is that what your customers receive, or the customers of the organisation you're looking at, but what they truly sacrifice in order to do that. And by that, I rarely mean it's just money. It may be image, or it might be image is one of the benefits. So if it's the Poundland, for example, they might actually sacrifice, be a bit embarrassed about shopping there, but in exchange, they get good value products and services, or products. The final example we've got here is a business to business scenario. So this is the retailer is a business, as is the manufacturer. So go back to my card shop. They buy cards from a manufacturer that you'll never have heard of, because the cards are all branded the retailer, so that's fine. And they place big orders for these goods. They're allowed to have 30 days credit, so in other words, they don't have to pay. They get the cards and they pay 30 days later. If the cards don't sell, they're allowed to return them. So it's a sale or return basis, and they deliver cards to the 5 independent shops, because it's a chain of just 5, but they sell them, so they deliver them all over the UK to these different retailers that I've mentioned. And they might provide shelves and racking and display cabinets as well, and rent those out to the retailer. Then in exchange, the retailer maybe pays a little bit more than they would for other manufacturers, because they get all the presentation, the sort of the stands and things with the cards as well. So this idea, I think this is absolutely fundamental to marketing. And when I work, because I run a small marketing consultancy, with my clients, what we do is we really get to the crux of what people are receiving from them and what they're paying and what they feel they're sacrificing using them. And this is something that big organisations seem to miss, because they don't fully evaluate everything in this exchange process. So the next thing I'd like us to do is I'd like us to watch a video which discusses a digital strategy and the way in which digital adoption is changing the process of bringing goods and services to market. Just 1 second. So back to our slides on that. A question to consider is just thinking about how Netflix have managed to do that better, cheaper, faster, and how they've managed to roll it out so quickly. And really, one of the organisations you could choose for your first assignments a brick and clicks organisation, so one that has online and offline retailing, a purely digital one, a digital disruptor. So you've got so many options here. So have a think about an organisation that interests you. But as I said, if you want to use the same one for the first and second assignment, you will need to pick an organisation that is in the FTSE 250. So in terms of digital, we've got, as the gentleman said, better. So it's easier to do business with them. It works out cheaper because they've got economies of scale, and it's with us very quickly. So there's a lack of, it's very convenient. However, if we think about, so from the marketing exchange, you can see these are all benefits for the individual, the customer. And in exchange, they're able to supply goods and services in mass volumes. So they're able to get it cheaper from their wholesaler. The only thing I'd say is there is potentially a trade-off because some people don't like big brands such as Amazon that have a market monopoly because they feel it's unfair on smaller independent brands. So actually people who end up buying from Amazon and feel that way may actually feel that they are being disloyal to smaller retailers, that they're helping to support smaller retailers going out of business. They feel uncomfortable with the process. They feel that they're supporting a monster or something that's, got, or they feel that Amazon doesn't necessarily have good employee relations. So just have a think about the full, as I say, the full exchange in terms of the sacrifice that people are making. And the benefits are not always, because they're rational benefits, but they're also emotional ones, or rational or emotional costs as well. So just consider what they might be. So something that I thought would be very helpful for your first assignment is to structure the presentation around a marketing framework. And this will make sure that we cover everything that's required for an organisation, a marketing strategy framework, to take it to market. So I'm going to introduce you, or to take their goods and services to market. I'm going to introduce you to 3 different ones, okay? And we're going to explore one in much more detail and look at the data that could go into it in our seminar. So the first one we're going to look at is called Moustick, or MOST when it's abbreviated. And I would suggest that if you use this one for your presentation, that you probably use MOST, okay? So the first thing that we look at is what is the organisation about. So we're looking inwards first at what the organisation's values are, how they articulate themselves, and their mission statement. We then look externally. So we gather all this data on what the market's like, who's the competition, internally, who are they connected to, who are their suppliers, who are their competitors, in terms of just sort of a natural extension of the organisation. And then internally, what are their strengths and weaknesses? Externally, what are the opportunities and threats? So the more we understand about what's going on, we can just check back, is the mission still fit for purpose? Because if we're digitally innovating very quickly, we may have to recap or change the mission that we're using. We then move on by trying to understand what their objectives are, so their marketing objectives, and we may have to look try and find out a way to understand, because this tends to be quite commercially sensitive information, but the more we can understand, the more we can check if their marketing aligns to delivering on this. Okay, so the next thing we're looking at, and this is something that we'll continue to look at through in next week's lecture, is about how we're going to achieve the marketing objectives. And we do this by identifying who we want to work with, so who the potential customers are, so which markets they should go for, and then what we're actually going to sell them. So we do this by looking at the segments available, so different groups of potential customers, and we decide which ones to go for. We then need to create something that's just amazing for them, that they're really satisfied with, and delight them ideally to be truly marketing centered. So this is where we look at the marketing tactics. So we're looking at what our value proposition is and how we're going to reach them. We're then implementing it all by using the marketing mix, and we're controlling it to measure the success of it. So we're looking at what data measures will tell us how we're doing. So if we're just going to abbreviate that to most, we'd be looking at the mission, the objectives, the strategy, and the tactics, which you could look at if you wanted to in the assignment. Now, an alternative to this is a little bit less rigid, less steps, but it still starts off by an analysis. So that could be internal and external about what's going on in the environment and internally and externally. We then create a plan. So the plan could be the strategy, so who to target, how to, first of all, looking at segmentation, then who we're going to go for. Then we're going to implement it through the marketing mix, and then we're going to measure it through the controls. And then the final alternative that I want to put, which is possibly my favourite when I'm creating a marketing strategy for a client, is a situation. It's called SOSTAC, and you start off by looking at the situation. So again, internally and externally, what's going on in the organisation. So we're not starting with a mission like most, because the mission tends to be internally driven. Instead, we're looking both internally and externally in one shot. Then we're working out what their objectives are and their strategy. So again, who they're going after in terms of the segments, which ones they actually think are worth working with, so their targets, and they position themselves through their tactics. So this could be through the marketing mix, so the product, the place, the promotion, the price. But in the product, we're considering how we're adding value, we're looking at the brand, and then through the promotion, we're looking at which communication strategies are we going to use. The actions in this tend to be who's delivering them. So is it an internal team or is it an external agency? And then the controls are the measures we use to check whether the objectives have been delivered. So if we look at a comparison between the three, all of them start with where we are now. MMBB09 looks very firmly at what the organisation stands for. So for a values-driven organisation or a charity, you can see how that could be effective. However, it might be out of date and we might be driven by something that we can't change or we feel we can't change. So I'd suggest the mission needs revisiting after we've audited what's going on. For APIC and SOSTAC, we're looking at an analysis, so this could be both internal and external, the same with the audit. The next level, we're looking at where we want to be. So for MMBB and SOSTAC, we've got clear set objectives that are definable. It's a bit looser in APIC, we're just looking at planning, which could incorporate objectives. Then we're considering how we're going to get there. So we're thinking then about how we're going to group people together and then which ones we're going for, so segmenting and targeting. Which way we're getting there is the positioning that we're doing, and that's through the tactics. So that's through the marketing mix, the use of perceptual maps, and other strategies such as branding. Then we've got the final for all three of them is the control element. So in all of them, we're considering, have we achieved what we set out in the objectives for the planning stage? So it all comes full circle. And then every year, the idea is we can set a marketing plan every year and consider these steps, and then we can share it with the board to make sure that they agree it and they sign off on it. So we've got a clear idea of where we're going, but also then we can put a budget in place, because if we know what our objectives are, for example, to increase sales, double them, then you can ask for a bigger marketing budget to achieve that than you would be able to if you hadn't got any set objectives. So we're going to look at SOSTAC in more detail in the live seminars, which I would actively encourage you to do, because we're going to look at, for SOSTAC, where we're going to find the data. So that's going to be really helpful for the first assignment. So in this session, I introduced you to the module. I talked you through briefly the assessments, and they're all available for you to look at, and I'd actively encourage you to do that. I talked you through the schedule that we'll be following and the team delivering the programme. I then defined marketing in a couple of different ways and introduced this idea of digital marketing. I also introduced a couple of different marketing planning methodologies, so SOSTAC, MMBB09, and APIC. Here are the references, and all the slides are also available on Moodle for you to look at in your leisure.